Lads, we have a malfunction there. Who's playing that? Mick, I'm looking at you. Anyway, we're the LFC Daytrippers, and this is the Midweek Fix. I'm your host, Keith Plunker, and tonight I'm joined by Chris Brack, Seany Lawson, and Mick Moran from the Kopite Podcast. Mick, how are you?
Yeah, all good, mate. Yeah.
Good stuff. Excellent. The other two are quite regular, so we won't even do introductions for them. It's International Week, Midweek Fix. You know, we're going to look at some of the international football that was played. We're going to look at some of the Liverpool performers on the international break, how we all feel about the players going away with their countries, if there's any negative impacts around COVID and things like that. And also look at FSG possibly looking to make a power play themselves between the red ball deal with Billy Bean and the talk of the project, what's it called? Project
Big Picture.
Big Picture, I couldn't remember the project Big Picture, which apparently FSG were at the forefront of. So we'll talk about those things in depth, and we'll also touch on Harry Wilson's situation about an exit coming up for him. So I'll come to you for Seany. International duty. We'll start off. Seems as though you're wearing a Republic of Ireland jersey. We've no players in this particular fight, but another bad night for the Irish tonight, wasn't it?
Yeah, just it's weird. Like the last 3 games have been, the results have been what we've kind of come accustomed to as Irish football fans. But I think there is positives to take from it because you can see what he's trying to do, Stephen Kenny. Like I'm not expecting. I think people are mad expecting us to start knocking the ball around and play this free-flowing football all of a sudden. I think there needs to be some sort of grassroots injection into Irish football at the moment and start this from the bottom. And to be fair, Stephen Kenny has us playing the way he had that 21s team playing, and there is some good talents coming through. We just need a goal scorer, and we would have been grand if we had a natural goal scorer like a Robbie Keane. We would have been looking at a playoff final, and we probably would have we would have been looking at results against Wales and against Finland there. Like the football has just been there, but just haven't got the goal scorer. And there's rumours that Patrick Bamford wants to line out for Ireland. And to be honest with you, I think it's someone like him is exactly what we need, because we need goal scorers. That's what we need. I know Troy Parrott's coming through and stuff like that, Aaron Connolly and Adam Ida, but they're not there yet, and it's going to take time, you know what I mean? But you need to dig in and stay. You need to be realistic, and Kenny needs time. There's no point people crying about this type of football that Ireland need to pay. Stephen Kenny's going to need time, you know what I mean? Like, it's as simple as that. This isn't a quick fix.
Exactly. It's a, you know, you touched on something there, Seany, that people think because you can play expansive football, you'll get immediate results, and it doesn't work that way. But it is good to see them trying, you know. And I think it took other managers a long time to get wins on the board till they could get settled. And you know, someone like Patrick Bamford up front, as you touched on there, Connolly and Ida, 2 young players. You need that senior striker, don't you, to take on the mantle. David McGoldrick does a lot of good work for Ireland, but he's just not prolific enough, you know. It's unfortunate. Someone actually mentioned to me that he'd be a good backup signing for Liverpool. We can discuss that one.
Yeah, because McGoldrick is one of them. Like, he's brilliant on the ball and he's great off the ball as well, but he's like Lego. He fucking goes to bits in the box, you know what I mean? He when he gets into the box, it's just I don't know. It's all his foot. It's like he drinks the Space Jam juice. You just play him on the perimeter, like a basketball player, like a point guard. Just leave him on the outside, sort of thing. You know what I mean? It's not happening. It's just not happening for him. Like, and we were unlucky where Ida and Connolly were obviously COVID victims, so to speak, in the Slovakia game. Look, it's going to take time. It's really not a quick fix for Ireland at the moment. It's shocking. It's shocking. We've been manhandled as a footballing organisation for the best part of 15 years, and it's going to be a massive clean-up job.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I know a lot of the guys here probably aren't as aware of the state of Irish football. As Seany said at the top, the mismanagement from the very top since probably was Saipan really when John Delaney first came on the scene. I know he wasn't the main man at that stage, but that's when he first appeared. It's been terrible and they've been run, ridiculously bad. So it's, another goalless performance, but there is signs there that things to come. David Lennon's thrown in international football needs to be parked, and I'm not a fan of it at all. I think it's brutal, but we just have to talk about something tonight, and it's going to be international football. I'll come on to you, Mick. England played brutal tonight, weren't they?
Honestly, I don't even watch England anymore. Like I've been reading a few tweets just before, and it's just like people saying it's the worst performance they've ever put in. Like Harry Maguire gets sent off. Like I'm more interested in watching the likes of like Portugal. Like Jota scored 2 and got an assist. Nechel Williams got an assist for Wales. I focus on anything but England really. Like honestly, I couldn't care less. I also wanted. I think Henderson came off the last 10 minutes.
He did.
It's probably maybe good for him. It's getting a bit of game time in his legs. But apart from that, every time they go away to England, I'm worried. I fear the worst that they're going to come back injured. So honestly, I'd happily scrap all internationals. It doesn't bother me at all.
I'm going to be honest, Mick, you've ruined my whole programme there by being a Scouser who doesn't watch England. Surprise, surprise. But no, not seriousness. I was the exact same. I was looking at the team sheet and I was looking at, right, who's there. They're playing a lot of defensive players, a lot of defensive mids. Hendo's not in, Gomez isn't in, Trent isn't in.
I watched it.
Good.
I think England will suffer from the very same thing that Manchester United will for as long as Solskjaer is in charge. Southgate is not a good enough manager. He's riding the coattails of a World Cup semi-final run where England basically played nobody. If I'm being honest, they played Sweden, they played Colombia to end up in a World Cup semi-final. I think it's the best batch of England players there's been for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But you look at the way he lined up tonight. He 2 holding midfielders at home to Denmark, and then I'm starting to feel a bit sorry for him at the moment because Harry Maguire seems to be in like the sunken place at the moment regarding his career or what's going on and off the pitch. It's just not going well for him, and it's times like this where he'll need a leader that just take him out for a while, just give him a rest because he looks completely lost at sea. He was like a competition winner tonight for England, and I don't laugh at players like that in that position because we had that with Liverpool for years and years, but he looks like he's drowning. He's badly saving.
I mean, a bad player is a bad player, but a player who's, Harry Maguire is not a bad player, but he is going through a bleeding awful period. And as you said, he doesn't have the guidance at club or international level. It's a weird one to see. But Chris, what did you make? Did you watch any of the England game tonight? Did you feel there was any positives to take from it?
It was only 1-0. I suppose that's a positive. They kept themselves in the game. It's not the most fun. It wasn't the most fun game to watch. I half flicked it on. The problem he's got is he doesn't trust probably any of his defence or his goalie. That's why you play a back three. Most clubs play a back three because they don't trust the defences. And the problem they've got good defenders, but you've got Maguire is horrifically out of form. Gomez, is lucky to get called up for England because he's out of form at the moment. He's not a bad player, but he's out of form. And then you look at the rest of them, you're going, Cody actually and Mings played the best out of the 2 that came on. The problem with Cody and Mings is they've only got like 5 caps between them. So if you want to throw in 2 very experienced Premier League players, but not experienced international players, and Kyle Walker, you just don't know which Kyle Walker's turn up. Sometimes he can be really good for England, and then he'll have a brain fart. I mean, the first goal, it's a soft penalty, but it's all caused by the goalie running out for absolutely no reason. I don't know where he's going, and it creates panic, which is why then he's played 2 defensive midfielders. Because I think he wants to play back 4, probably Henderson and Rice or somewhere, Then he wants to play four of his really expansive players. He wants to play like a Sterling, a Sancho, a Rashford behind a Kane. That's what he wants to do. But every time he's played the back four, it's just brutal to watch. And you're just thinking, big teams will pick him off. And I think that's why he's positioning his back three. He's probably thinking if he goes to a tournament, if he gets at the group stage, he's going to have to play a back three, because if he plays anything like a France or a Germany, he's not going to touch the ball. So they need a back three. And we've got, the one thing England are blessed with is we've got about 8 right backs. So he's trying to find a way of getting as many right backs as he can into the side.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I was quite pleased in terms of that. Trent played one game, Gomez played one game, Henson played 60 minutes and 15. So that was good for Henson because he got the minutes to his legs. And in terms of Trent and Gomez, it just keeps them sharp. But they're not being overplayed, which has been the problem with previous England managers, Roy Hodgson. Those guys would have played all 3 games, been knackered then for club football. So in fairness to Southgate, he has been quite good at spreading the minutes out across all the players. So no one's really been like absolutely run ragged.
Yeah, it is a positive thing, because it was a worry, an international break coming at this stage of the season, and some teams playing 3 internationals in the week seemed a bit mad. But fingers crossed, we haven't heard of any injuries or anything from any of our lads, have we? So I want to come on to a few of the performers, as Mick touched on earlier. Jota got 2 lovely goals and an assist tonight. Good performance from him, taking on. Mick, will come back to you on it. He played well, didn't he? I've seen a comment saying it was a pity there was no crowd there, because he would have got a standing ovation when he got substituted. He looked to be very lively.
Yeah, and I think it's with Ronaldo getting COVID, I think that gave him, because I think he started on the bench last game, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So he started tonight. Obviously, I think he was on the right hand side, where I think usually where Ronaldo plays, and he got an assist, got 2 goals, and especially the second one. Well, actually both of them, you can see that type of play happening for him in a Liverpool shirt. Like the first one's a great ball, to be fair, by Cancelo, and he's got on the end of it, and you can see that exact transition happening in a Liverpool shirt, with Trent providing the ball and him scoring. And the second one's another little great through ball on the left, and he's cut inside and then smashed the bottom corner. And it is promising to see that, because we've seen him against Villa, and I think we were all hyping him up a bit too much. I was anyway. I was hoping he was going to be save our skin, especially with no Mane and no Thiago in there. And I think a lot of pressure was on his shoulders in that game. And I think he done all right. But I think there's a lot more to come from him. We've signed definitely wisely getting him in. He's only he's 23, 24, is he? So his time's on his side. And I think in terms of tactics wise, you can see from those 2 goals tonight for Portugal, that he's going to have an absolute field day in the Liverpool team when we start getting through the gears again and start banging a few goals in, hopefully starting on Saturday. Yeah,
very much. I mean, I think it's I agree with you. Some people may be over egging the Jota performances so far, but he does offer something with the speed and the pressing that maybe I took for granted and didn't realise he had in his locker. Sean, he'll come to you. Is there a worry with this whole Ronaldo COVID scare that in a week's time Jota could find himself with testing positive, or is the testing so good that if they're happy that Ronaldo, that he doesn't have it now after being tested, that he won't get it? Or what do you think? Is there a fear that in a week we could lose players because of this break?
Absolutely. We were talking about this last week, and the incubation period can be anywhere between 4 to 14 days. So we won't know the effects of this international break until maybe a week or 2 down the line. But look, this is reality at the moment, unfortunately. It's baffling to think that these games went ahead, to be honest with you, because it just doesn't make any sense. It's just going to be further disruption down the line. Look, 1 or 2 weeks, and then I think there's friendlies again in November, isn't it? There's internationals again in November, isn't it? So it's, to be honest with you, if I can be frank with you, it's a fucking disaster waiting to happen. If I'm being deadly honest with you, that's what we want. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense at all to be having these friendlies. Looking, you can do normally you have the bit in the back of your head where you're always checking scores on international games to see if your players are coming off injured and making sure that everyone comes back healthy and not burnt out. But now you have the extra worry of, are they going to come back infected with a fucking virus and we're going to end up held up again 2 weeks, 10 days, similar to Mane and Thiago. It's a ball ache, a completely unnecessary ball ache at this stage of the early stages of the season. So, yeah, look, it's definitely a worry. Obviously, Jota was tested prior to Ronaldo testing positive and was negative, thankfully. So, let's just hope it stays that way.
Yeah, true. Chris, we're moving away from the COVID bit there, but something that Mick touched on was the fact that Ronaldo wasn't playing and maybe gave a bit of freedom to the likes of Jota to perform there tonight. Do you think he, without seeing the game probably, do you think he flourished because Ronaldo wasn't there, because that big figure wasn't there? Other players got a chance to step up. We've seen it at Liverpool before with Gerrard, when he wouldn't play certain players, probably feel a bit more freedom. Do you think it benefited Jota tonight being able to do that and taking the mantle on?
Yeah, I think it probably does. I think you tend to see what happens with players once the big man's out. I mean, the best example for us was probably 2 years ago when we sold Coutinho. We didn't buy a replacement, which we were all a bit concerned about. And in fairness to him, Chamberlain really went up a level or two. And Chamberlain, before he tore his knee, was doing the crucial goal routine in midfield, and that's what he wanted. So I think Jota's the same thing. I think some players, they flourish are going, you don't need Ronaldo, you've got me. I think some footballers are built that way. It can go the other way, because there are some players who, without the main man, shrink under the pressure, don't like it. He doesn't seem that type of player. He seems a type of player that actually likes to take responsibility, and I think that's a sort of character that Klopp looks for. So, I mean, to be fair, he was coming to Liverpool, so he knew he had a battle in his hands to get games with the front three we've got. So he's probably got that little bit of swagger and arrogance in him that he thinks,
Yeah,
you know, I'm better than Mane or I'm better than Salah. And I think you need that. I think you need that little bit of arrogance. When they put me in, good luck to Mane and Salah, because they're not getting back in ahead of me. So, you know, I think for someone like him, it's good for him. I think that's possibly something Minamino is not quite got in his game yet. He still looks a little bit like he's finding his feet and possibly hasn't quite took his chance yet. I mean, look, he's only been here 6 months, so, you know, everyone's different.
It's mad though, isn't it? Like with them signings, they can go one way or another. Like some players shrink under the pressure, and then others grow into the role and really become the player that they're supposed to be. And I think from the interviews and what we heard about Jota when he signed for Liverpool, you kind of had a feeling that Klopp and Edwards and Linders knew exactly the type of character that he was going to flourish, and Nuno had really nothing but good things to say about him when he was leaving. So look, it's obviously great to see him kicking on. He gets his debut goal against Arsenal, and then I thought the result being an absolute disaster, I thought Jota looked promising at Villa. I think he had some real moments of real quality, and then you see tonight what he can bring. And it's a perfect example there what Chris made it with Coutinho, because Chamberlain did step up big time. And yeah, Jota, look, it's exciting. Like if you were to turn around and say, look, you're probably going to leave one of the front three out and Jota starts on Saturday, you'd be way more peaceful in the mind knowing that there's a player of absolute quality going into the lineup. So yeah, it's exciting for us, and with Champions League being back next week, like we're going to see these lads getting loads of minutes, fucking providing that they don't have this fucking virus.
Yeah, it's true, you know. And the thing with Jota as well, he does have the characteristics of the other players in the front three, doesn't he? Like, he's very quick and he's good at pressing and he's direct, whereas if you're thrown in a Origi or Shaqiri, you weren't getting the same. Your whole front line was changing, wasn't it? Your game plan was nearly altered by bringing those lads in. Mick, I'll come to you. Another good performer that you touched on there was Nico Williams. Got an assist again for Wales tonight, and he looks to be doing well there on the international scene, doesn't he? Maybe a break from the pressures of playing for Liverpool is doing him good as well.
Definitely, and I think especially he got loads of abuse, didn't he, recently on social media, where he ended up blacking out his account, and it's stuff like that where you've got to put into perspective how young he is. What is he? 18, 19 years old. He's a kid, and he's got loads of time and he's got loads to learn. So that was a bit of I didn't expect that something like that to happen so early on in his career. I mean, he showed what he's all about in the game in the short time he's been in and around the first team. Like he's not scared to get on the ball to make things happen, whip and cross into the box. It's just his all-round play that defensively that he needs to work on. But it's the exact same boat as Trent was in when he came through in the team. Any left winger would come up against Trent, and they just keep passing to the left winger and just basically telling him, go on, take Trent on. And if we start blooding Neco Williams into the team more often, we're going to have to accept that that's going to probably happen more often than not. And he's going to have probably more bad days than he'll have good days in the infancy of his career, and that's just bound to happen, especially when you're playing for the best team in the world. Like teams are going to come and try and exploit our weaknesses, and if that's the case, if say for example Trent's out with an injury, we have to put him in there, then we'll have to. That's what I mean. We'll have to just adapt and move with the flow. But in the bits I've seen, I think it's really promising. I mean, it did surprise me that we sold Keanu Hoover, because I thought maybe he was, in my mind, I thought he was slightly ahead of Williams in terms of overall technical ability and a bit more solid as an overall player. But obviously they've decided that Neco Williams is the way to go to progress the team. And for me, that he's going to be quality. Like, it's just, he's working under the best manager in the world. He's working alongside Trent, who for me is now one of the best young right backs in the world. So I don't think we've got much to worry about there. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders, but like you said, he's gone away to Wales. It's a nice little break from maybe mentally getting some assists in there, getting some minutes in the legs, and proving that he can do it on that stage. And if he can do it on that stage, he's making a statement that he can come and do it for Liverpool as and when required. But for me, I've got no qualms about if we have to throw him in. It's the exact same as what we've done with Trent and what we're going to have to do with Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott. It's these types of moments where we're going to have to just say, well, I have to take the rough with the smooth, and to aid the overall progression, you have to go through these types of moments.
Very true, very true. Chris, something there we've touched on about the pressures of playing. Maybe not the pressure of playing for Liverpool, but he was getting a lot of stick, and he was, he blacked out the Twitter and all that sort of thing. Do you think going away with Wales, and the fact that, no disrespect to Wales or any Welsh fans listening, but that the level and standard of maybe the Wales team, he feels maybe a bit more, not senior, because he's been around the first team at Liverpool for a while, but he's getting games at Wales, and he probably feels a bit more confident in that setup than maybe at Liverpool. Maybe he's still a bit awestruck, or am I reading too much into that, do you think?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, the big thing that helped Neco Williams was the Arsenal game. Because he had a really good game against Arsenal. I know we got knocked out, but he played really well against them. So I think that helped. I think that's helped him more than the Welsh game.
Yeah, no, that's true. He's done well in certain games. He's been targeted in others, as Mick said. It's going to happen. It's natural. It'll always be the case. Seany, would you be worried if on Saturday morning we saw the team and Neco Williams was in there, as Klopp has tended to do with the Derby game? He's thrown a few googlies in.
No, I wouldn't be worried. He's a kid. He's capable. The Merseyside Derby is a big game. You'd be worried if any of the first 11 weren't in the squad. Yeah. I think that the problem with football these days is, Keith, is people make these assumptions on players from day one, and then they feel like they need to maintain that opinion of that said player for years and years to come. Like, it's not like, you can't be rational when you kind of come to these things. Like, there's Neco Williams. He does some things really well. Maybe he gets exposed defensively sometimes. All right, well, that's it. He's fucking shy. Like, he's 19 years of age. He's still learning his trade. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Trent is 21, 22. He's still very young in terms of being a Premier League fullback. Now, I know he has all the experience. You could rate him as one of the highest rated right backs in the world. But he's still learning his game. I'm not going to turn around and say he's poor defensively. He's still learning the game. There's not a 22-year-old right back in world football that knows everything about the game that needs to be known. There's not a 19-year-old in world football who can't improve. This is the thing. People need to realise that you don't have to nail your colours to the mast with the opinions on these players, like, because the chances are they will improve and you will end up looking like a fucking idiot eventually.
Yeah.
Like, case in point, Jordan Henderson. Everyone battered Jordan Henderson and slated Jordan Henderson for years. But that's it. They maintain that opinion. Whereas if you look now, you just show how important he is of a cog, not only to Liverpool, but to his national team. So these players will improve. Look, you need to just trust the judgment of Jurgen Klopp here on this one. And if the fact that Ryan Giggs plays Nico Williams in the Wales team that are very progressive, and then it tells you all you need to know. He's a good player and he will improve. And he's good enough to be a right back at Liverpool because Jurgen Klopp says so. Because if he wasn't, we would have signed one in the window. It's as simple as that. You look at Larouci on the other hand. People wanted him in. He obviously wasn't up for it. So you got Simicast. This is the way it goes. If these players aren't good enough, they're either replaced or sold. It's as simple as that.
Exactly. And as Super Tiger's saying, like, every fullback gets skinned. I mean, we all remember Trent getting roasted by Rashford, wasn't it?
Rashford.
In Old Trafford, Lukaku flick on and that. And it happens. And there was a couple of games that Trent got targeted on in those. And, you know, any manager worth the salt will see a young fullback in there as a weak link and will target them. Look, even the likes of
people turn around and point the finger at Joe Gomez for not being a top class centre back. Like, there's not a 23-year-old top class centre back in world football. Like, he's learning his trade. That's like, just because we're winning trophies and at the top, it doesn't mean these lads aren't learning as they go along. He's learning his trade. Like, you know, Klopp made the point about Brewster saying if Brewster was 25, he'd have no problem keeping him around the squad. Yeah. You learn. This is where you learn the most about being a footballer at this level, is at those ages. So you learn from your mistakes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people are mad. They just want perfection yesterday. That's the way they want it. They want it immediately, if not sooner.
Yeah, people are too impatient, don't they? They don't give them time, and social media, I suppose, doesn't help with all the critics that are out there. Another player that's done well on international duty for us is Bobby, who went finished with Liverpool before the break, maybe getting a lot of criticism and, you know, a lot of stick for his performances. But Mick, he's he got 2 for Brazil the other night, and I know he assisted one last night as well, or this morning, whenever that one was on. Not a bad little haul for Bobby on international duty. But do you think he will, with the fact that he's going to be back late from Brazil and the early kickoff, do you think he may miss out on Saturday? Do you think, with the fact he's only back, I think, on Friday, will Klopp sit him for this, knowing that maybe he has got a Jota that he could put in there?
I'd be very surprised if he doesn't start for me, to be honest. Especially, I mean, I don't know if, Mane and Thiago are back in training. We haven't got Alisson, so we're already missing one main component of our very specific starting 11. So we're missing the keeper. So I don't imagine he's going to leave Bobby out. I mean, like you said, he's going to come back late, but I still imagine he'll want to start him and maybe get a foothold in the game. If we manage to grab a couple of goals, hopefully, then you might see a change where we might bring a Jota on or a Minamino on or something like that. But it's same as Neco Williams, really. Like, it's probably nice for Bobby to get away and do some business for his country and try and get his confidence up, because I think I've seen a load of shit on Twitter in the last week. During international breaks, the worst. Like, opposition fans chatting absolute shite about Firmino not scoring goals. I know we all want him to score more goals, but if you can't see what he brings to this team, then you're an absolute idiot. And I mean, it's people that only watch Match of the Day, and you've got to watch full 90 minutes of games to appreciate what Bobby Firmino does. It's the same as Jordan Henderson, really. And he'll never get the credit that he deserves in terms of that. I mean, he's not been at his best. I mean,
no, he's been shy, if I'm being honest. I think
the last couple of games, even as, like I said, I was going to say that his passing's not even been great. Like, he usually picks it up, doesn't he? Like, just in front of maybe just in the opposition half, and he'll make something happen, like a little nice turn and a little crisp pass into the wings or whatever. That's even been missing, which isn't like him. And I mean, he scored one against Bolivia, I think, where he's picked it up in front of basically his own penalty box, played it out, and he's run 80 yards down the other end and scored. And that's what we want to see from Firmino. I mean, he goes where he wants, and that's what Klopp wants him to do. So that's what he does. He's basically got a free roll. He can go where he likes, where he sees fit, picks up pockets of space, and makes things happen. And like you said, Sean, he's not been great the last couple of games, or
he
maybe
looks
for a while.
To be fair, like we talked about now for the last 2 summers of the 3 lads up front burning out, and thankfully it hasn't really happened. But Bobby looks knackered. He's looked tired, and look, a dip in form is it's normal in football. These things happen. He's been really poor, like you said, Mick. Like, I wouldn't be going mad if Bobby's not scoring goals, but what annoys me is when he's sloppy in possession and he's not even pressing and holding the ball the way he uses it. And that's where we find him the most useful, is link-up play, knitting the play between the midfield and the forwards. But he hasn't done that this year for us, unfortunately. Look, a drop-off is to be expected. Like, he probably needs a rest, but it's good to see him going to Brazil and having a bit of spark and that energy, and the goals as well. Like, they weren't just he was sniffing around the box. It was vintage Bobby. So hopefully he's back to his best now after the break, because look, firing Bobby, when Bobby is firing, Liverpool are firing. It's as simple as that. Yeah,
it really is that simple, isn't it? A lot of people think he's easily replaced, and I don't. I think he's a key man, and Bobby on form and Liverpool are pouring because everyone else feeds off it and benefits. I had Owen Book's comment up there a minute ago saying about Robbo that he wasn't playing, and he got about 500 responses in there. Yeah, he was suspended. He's doing well for Scotland. Scotland are flying in their group at the moment, and he done well. Got a nice little yellow the other night to miss out on the second game. So top work there by Andy Robbo on international duty. But a comment there from Super Tiger. Richarlison also played for Brazil. James played for Colombia. Mina was rested with a tight hamstring. So that's 3 of their players coming back late. And that is true. You know, it's not just ourselves that'll have that problem. Everton will be they'll have players coming back late, because I think they all come back on a charter plane together, don't they? So, you know, if we have Bobby missing, but they're going to have a couple of key men out.
The other issue is the COVID test, because they'll probably won't get back till Friday. They'll have a COVID test Friday. They won't get the results till Saturday morning.
I think they've got the results now for them boys.
Even the Athletic were reporting saying it could be Saturday morning for definitely, if they've all got negatives. That's Liverpool and Everton, so there is always that doubt.
Well, I suppose it's going to be the same for both teams, really, isn't it? Put it this way: I think if Bobby, Richarlison, and James all come back on the same plane and they all test positive for COVID or have to miss the game for whatever reason, we're probably better placed to cover that than what Everton will be, which is good to have. But as Barry Devaney said there, Coleman, Allen and Richarlison are all fit for Everton, so full squad. A lot's being made about Adrian in goal for us, and look, we don't need to speak too much about him. He hasn't been great, and he breeds sort of panic into our defence and the team. But Pickford isn't much better for Everton. And Seany, is it something that you think, are we worrying too much about our sort of weaknesses and ignoring Everton's weaknesses, in the sense that they've had a good start, but there's been a lot of errors in that Everton team as well. And they've just been not lucky, but they've, their wins have papered over a lot of their poor play. Whereas with Liverpool or with Man U or with Man City, Chelsea, the big teams, it's not a dig at Everton, they're only a little team. Any errors sort of get swept under the carpet nearly with them, and it's just all positive. But do you think there's cracks, as many cracks in them than there is in us?
Yeah, sure. You only have to look at the narratives between Liverpool last year and Everton this year. We went on that run at the start of the season, and everyone was going on about how poor defensively that we were. This was last year. This is last year when Adrian played the first 8 games. Everyone was going on about how Liverpool were leaky and how we wouldn't do the 97 points again. And the biggest advocate for that was Jamie Carragher, and he still seems to be the biggest doubter of the whole lot of them, to be honest with you, because he seemed to me like he took a little bit of a a bit of pride in that performance at Villa. It seemed like he enjoyed it. I don't know what it was about him, but it just did. He annoyed me to no end that night. Look, everything at 4 from 4, but who have they played? Yeah, they beat a Spurs side who basically, you don't know what you're going to get. Complete mixed bag with them. They struggled at home to West Brom with 10 men initially, and then they beat Brighton. And then, who was the last game?
Palace.
Who did they? Palace.
They
Palace.
beat
So,
Palace
look,
away 2-1 with that penalty, which now wouldn't be a penalty.
yeah, they've not played anyone in their ballpark. And being honest with you, I understand the narratives around Liverpool at the moment because Adrian had a chance to just be without pressure, and then he did what he did against Villa. So obviously they're going to turn up the heat on him. You know, on Saturday morning when they're doing the build up to the game, it's going to be all about him, and it's going to be all about Liverpool's high line and all this and all that. There won't be a word said about Jordan Pickford and his recent form for England and everything. So look, I think this all of that is well beneath this Liverpool team. If we're honest, they will show up on Saturday, and they need to put a performance in because I hate watching Liverpool at Goodison Park and Old Trafford. I always have for as long as I can remember, but even more so under Klopp because he seems to show them way too much respect in these games. Because I think I think it's the 2 games where he says, "Do you know what? I absolutely don't want to lose these games, so I'll take a draw." And I don't think it's the right approach. As good as we are, I don't think everything are as good as they are, as good as everyone say they are, and I don't think we're anywhere near as bad as people say we are. So look, if we show up on Saturday, we'll do them. I've no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, Chris, it is a bit of a role reversal at the moment going into this game. You know, as Seany said there, that there's a certain narrative that, you know, Everton are doing brilliant and punching well above their weight. But could that go against them? You know, could that be something that really catches them out? That they'll go in maybe overconfident into this game and it's the best way for us to get them?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge Ancelotti's got is changing that mindset in the club. Because I think last time I saw Everton being probably clear favourites was the FA Cup semi-final when we had Brad Jones in goal. I remember going to that, and that was like, you were worried going, Everton going to do was it? We've got Brad Jones in goal. He dived the wrong way. You know, so that's what they've got to fix. That's the thing Everton got to fix is, can you handle it when you are expected to? As Torres, I think there's quite a few that were expecting Everton to win. So it's how they react to it. I mean, I'm confident we'll get a positive result of the game. Hopefully a win, but I think even a draw early in the season, it's not the end of the world. The other draws that Goodison have always been near the end of the season, and to be honest, they've been a bit more you could have done with the wins. But Klopp still has the record at Liverpool of he's never lost 2 league games in a row. He still hasn't done it, and that's nearly 5 years now. The club, he's not done it. And as much as his record is not fantastic at Goodison, he still hasn't lost a derby yet. He knows how to get results in derbies. And the one thing about that I think will help us is this is probably the one time you're glad there's no crowd at Goodison. Because can you imagine what that crowd would be like? Every time he got near the ball, it'd be raucous. And it would, because, you know, we've done it to Pickford. Because we know he gets fired up too much. You know, he is becoming like a parody of Joe Hart. He's too busy getting fired up that he forgets to concentrate. And Anfield crowds have done it to Pickford quite a few times and got themselves to force a mistake. Good crowd would have done that to Adrian. I think the crowd would have got to him. So actually, I think an empty stadium could actually play to his hand. This is probably the one time Everton probably could have done with a crowd in. I think that's probably what they need.
It's going to be interesting that, like, James Rodriguez has showed up to the Premier League and made it look like a cakewalk. We'll see on Saturday when he's getting pressed with the demon and he has to do a bit of work. The cream rises to the top. If James Rodriguez is as good as he said he was, he'd be still in Madrid at Bayern Munich. That's why he's not at the level. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's why he's doing a job now for them at the moment. We'll see on Saturday if they will have to outwork us, and I highly doubt they will.
Yeah, true. Mick, what's the feeling like on the ground over there? Because as Seany said, the Goodison game is always one that Klopp gives too much respect to, which is sort of unlike the Anfield derby, because he tends to take the piss a bit in that one. He doesn't, rate Everton when we played him at Anfield, but at Goodison he goes ultra conservative or overthinks it. Is the thinking on the street over there that the Everton fans have the tails are up and they really think they can do something here, or are they skeptical? Are they weary of a backlash?
Well, I spoke to Dan from the Wombats yesterday, and he's not a bit of blue, and he's level-headed, and he knows that we're favourites. And it makes me laugh. Like, we've won our first 3 games. We've lost our last one horrendously, fair enough. But and like Sean said, Everton have won all 4. But who have they really played? Like, they conceded 2 to Brighton. They could have conceded the low more. Pickford is an absolute shambles. There's a lot of it. Like Sean said, if we outwork them, and especially with Mane and Thiago in the team and Henderson back in the team as well, you think it'll be normality resumes. Like the way the media like to paint it, like Everton are flying and we're not, and it's like, well, we're 3 points behind them because we lost our last game, and it's like they try and paint it as though we're in some absolute turmoil, which isn't the case at all. We're just missing some key players, and we had a horrendously off day. I don't think most Everton fans will be expecting anything. I'm not expecting a great game. I mean, I always try and think it'll be a great game, especially with both teams in form. But
yeah,
it'll probably end up being a 0-0 or a 1-1, to be honest. Because like Sean said, Klopp when he goes to the likes of Goodison Park, he doesn't quite go through with the tactics that he would employ in a home game, which is a bit disappointing. But I hope Saturday is the time that he does do that, and I think what might go in our favour is the last game. It's getting humbled 7-2 to Villa at Villa Park, the worst defeat in 57 years. If there's any opportunity or glimmer of hope that Klopp will just be like, fuck the usual tactics I employ at away grounds, tough away grounds, but let's just go for it and let's just try and batter them. And I hope that's going to be the case, because I mean, I hope it's going to be a good game, because, like I said, I always build it up in my head, and I think everyone does the same, don't they? Like Sean said, going to Goodison Park and going to Old Trafford, place like that, it's always been, you don't enjoy it. So I hope this time's going to be one of them times where the Klopp goes, fuck it, and then we end up scoring 3 or 4 past them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he does take that approach. Kev O'Sullivan throws in there, you'd wonder if Klopp would play Milner in this just to piss all over James Rodriguez. It's probably a counterproductive move, is it? It's worrying about James. I mean, if I was to go to Ichi's now and pick maybe your starting 11 for the derby, we won't spend too much more time on this. But Shawnee, what do you think the lineup will be?
From front to back?
Yeah, go from
I'd say he'll go Adrian, Robbo, Virgil, Matip, Trent, Hendo, Gini, Thiago, and I think it'll be the front 3 as normal. I think that's what he'll go with. I don't know what the story is with these coronavirus tests, but look, I'm assuming that Fabinho and Bobby are there for selection. I'd still go with that midfield 3, because I think energy is what's going to dominate in the midfield there, because he's at the putting 2 yard dogs in there with James this year. So he's the core, and he has Alan, who I know there's a possible doubt over. But I'd go with them. That's the midfield 3. I'd go with Hendo, Thiago and Gini. Just energy. And then obviously Thiago gives you that bit of quality in possession, and me gives you sets us up to dominate that game possession wise and take the heat off. I think he will start Matip though. I think he will go on Matip, especially against the likes of a Richarlison and a Calvert-Lewin, whereas they're sort of the battles that Matip relishes. So I'll see him going with that. If you were to take Bobby out and probably throw Jota in, you wouldn't have any quarrels about that. So yeah, I think that's where he'll go with. I think that's how we'll line out.
Yeah. Mick, what about yourself? Do you agree with Sean, or can you see any other changes in there?
No, I imagine it'll be exactly as Sean said. The only thing I'd say maybe is if he doesn't feel Matip's completely fit, maybe he'll throw Fabinho back there. But I can't see Gomez Gomez just needs to maybe get took out of the team for a couple of weeks because at Villa he had an absolute shit show, didn't he? To be honest, he just couldn't get himself back to his normal self, and he is a bit out of form. So I think we maybe need to give him a rest. Yeah, I think Fabinho maybe centre back. But if it's Matip and Van Dijk, that's perfect because Calvert-Lewin thrives off those little flick-ons and having balls into chest, and if he's coming up against Matip 6'5" and Van Dijk 6'4", both beasts in the air, he's not gonna be relishing. I don't care how much he's in form, scoring 6 and 4. He won't relish coming up against those two. I mean, Matip's maybe not fully fit. I mean, he's been training, but if Klopp selects him, then that's definitely the best two to go for. And in regard to the rest of the team, definitely, like Sean said, that midfield will be perfect. That energy on both sides. Thiago just pulling the strings, and then the front three is normal.
Yeah, happy days. It'd be exciting to see. And what about yourself, Chris? Can you see any changes there, or are you agreeing with the lads?
I agree with the midfield. Henderson, Wijnaldum, and Thiago. I think he will play Fabinho at centre back because I'm assuming Matip's not going to be quite ready. I think his front three will be Salah, Mane, and Jota. I think he'll bench Firmino.
Interesting, but as Shawnee said, it probably wouldn't be as catastrophic, of a reaction if it happens. So yeah, it'll be interesting now to see if it plays out that way. But maybe it's one Goodison derby that might surprise us and might be a decent game. But I don't expect it myself.
We're talking about lineups there, Keith. I seen that stat today that Mane, Salah, and Firmino have never started a derby in the Premier League together.
Did we not start the Origi? Did we not start the Origi derby?
No, sure, he didn't play. Salah didn't play.
Oh, I thought he did. I thought he started it, but he came off.
No, Salah didn't play. Salah wasn't fit for that game.
It's a mad stat, isn't it? It's one we'll be checking when we go back. Like, did he play this? Did he play that?
No,
and there's the possibility that he won't start again now on Saturday as well. Like, crazy.
Look, Klopp, it's mad. He shows them too much respect at Goodison, and then he brings them to Liverpool and he puts the lads out, and then he puts a complete mixed bag of shit out and bashes the park. It's like, it's mental where it's absolutely mental, the respect he has for everything at Goodison. You just probably think, I know, or an interesting thing he said during that interview is that when Klopp goes out onto a pitch, he forgets about everything on the outside world for 2 hours in the game. And he said that the last one at Goodison was the only time in his career, it was our first game back after COVID, where his head wasn't in it. He said, like, he just wasn't there that day. He was worried about what was going on to him, much about in the outside world. So, look, I just love to see us going for it here because I hate, like I said, I hate watching these games. They're absolutely horrible to watch. Absolutely horrible. I've seen too many of a 0-0 or the scrappy 1-0 to us in the year. I'd like to see like a comprehensive Liverpool performance because it'll go a long way to shutting the people in the media up as well.
Yeah, as Stefan says there, 5-2 to the champs. Let's get on it. It's an optimistic shout, but sure, we'll see what happens. But before we finish up, I want to quickly get your opinions, if you have any opinions, on the news that's been coming out about FSG lately, between the red ball Billy Bean sort of investment into FSG and the I keep forgetting the name, what's called Project Big Picture, that Liverpool and FSG were at the forefront of. Shawnee, again, I'll start with you on this. Does it make you think, a lot of people thought FSG were maybe looking to sell up and might look to get out of Dodge nearly, in the Premier League? Does this make you think they are a bit more in for the long term? I know with the red ball investment, there's talks of buying up a lot of smaller clubs around Europe to park players off and to get young talent. That's the way City do it. And then with the big picture thing, it looks like they're probably making a statement that, look, we're here for change the way we're operating nearly, and we're in it for the long haul, and maybe changing their business approach. Can you see that being something they'll do?
I think the Project Big Picture is, I read about it today. I had a good look at it. It's Rick Parry's baby. He's using United and Liverpool to push it through, because he knows the power that they have in terms of how big they are to the Premier League as a product itself, and how marketable the Premier League is around the world because of clubs like Liverpool and Manchester United. If we're being honest, it's a complete opportunistic cash grab power play by the powers that be, because I think they're starting to see what's coming over the hill here in terms of a European Super League, and they know Liverpool and United, among other big clubs in England, have the Premier League over a barrel now in terms of money, because they can literally demand whatever they want, because they are the money, they're the breadwinners for English football. And if they were to desert the Premier League for a European Super League, that'd be put a massive dent in the Premier League product, so to speak. Because look, we only spoke about it the other night on a podcast. Who's going to pay 15 quid to watch Burnley on a Newcastle on a Super Sunday? So how are Sky going to sell Super Sundays without Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Spurs, United? They won't be able to. So I think it's some sort of like damage limitation by the Premier League to kind of get a structure in place, so when this European Super League does come around, that they're able to retain the likes of Liverpool and United and hold them there. Now, there's some of what I do agree with, and there's most of what I don't agree with. I don't think 6 clubs should rule the roost over 20 in the Premier League. I don't think that democracy should be broken up at all. But I think this is going to go ahead. The real reason why I think it's going to go ahead is because the EFL are in desperate need of a cash injection, and it doesn't look like there's any sort of government bailout coming along anytime soon. So they might have no choice but to bite the bullet and push it through. So it's probably, I hate to sound like yada, so to speak, but this would be the first nail in the coffin of football for me if this was to go ahead. I know it benefits Liverpool financially going forward, and it's beneficial to us, but I think as a whole for the English game, grassroots, it's just not good. And it's the beginning of the end, really, in my opinion.
Very pessimistic about it there, Seany, but fair play. Mick, we were talking beforehand and you were telling us you've read up a lot about this, and it's your favourite subject at the moment. But no, Seany was dead right what he said there, and there's some really good points in this, and you can see why the EFL are all over this. There's a 250 million package, is it, Seany, that's going to the EFL. Yeah. There's looking at scrap and parachute payments and things like that. They're trying to reconnect the EFL Championship with the Premier League, but it's the power all going to them top 6 teams, isn't it? That's the real crux of the whole thing. They're never going to agree to that.
Yeah, I mean, Sean's just summarised nicely there for me, because I haven't read that much about it. I mean, you just picked me up there, but I know pretty much not. And I mean, the only bit I know is that they get 4% now, and it's going to go up to like 25%, isn't it? So
which is quite big, it's huge, isn't it?
It's a huge chunk, but the whole dropping from the iconic 20 teams to 18, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I mean, it's if it is Rick Parry's baby, like Sean said, and he's using the bigger clubs to try and push this through and try and bend them to as well, then it isn't on really. And I mean, it's stuff like the Premier League, and you can't start messing about with changing it around. I mean, they've tried to do it in the past with other things and trying to change formats of different competitions, and if it works, it works. But the Premier League in its current format, it works. And I mean, like Sean said, the EFL, I think they're gonna drop the Community Shield and the EFL Cup, is it, if it ends up going through, which we wouldn't be bothered about really. We would happily drop those 2 now, to be honest. I mean, it's only a little byproduct of winning something nowadays. But I'd have to do some more reading up on it. But I don't know too much about it. But for me, dropping from the usual 20 to 18 trying to use the bigger teams to try and drive the narrative doesn't sound great.
Yeah, I was only stitching you up there, Mick. Go ahead, Seany.
What nobody else has picked up on either the media as well, which is this is all to counteract the sports washing going on in sports across the board at the moment. Because I think I was reading up that the sports group were looking to put together the European Super League to completely cut UEFA out of the picture in terms of European football. So apparently this was massively got to do with the outcome with Man City as well, because UEFA knew and Class knew if City got nailed, it would literally be a red flag for the likes of City to say, do you know what, well, we won't play in your competition anymore. We'll go and play in Qatar or in Dubai against Juventus every other week. Look, you have to look at every single sport. You look at the F1, Yas Marina, Yas Island is the home of F1 now. You look at boxing, Anthony Joshua's had big fights in Qatar and in Dubai. Where else can you go, right? You look the World Cup, for example, it's complete, and the UFC Fight Island, like, it's smart washing across the board by these Middle Eastern states, and this is them trying to get that clause into the game for the very same reason they weren't allowed to take over to Newcastle, because they see that this is all on the horizon for sports at the moment, that these are actually using sports as a toy, basically, and they don't want that to happen anymore. So I can see where it's being listed as like a defense mechanism, but there's no way out of it, unfortunately. It's always going to come down to money, and money is always going to win in the end.
Very true, very true. Chris, I'll come to you. It is going to come down to money. It is going to be the overriding factor in this. But if you look at some of the other points that are coming from it, and I know Mick isn't keen on reducing the league from 20 to 18, which is fair enough.
It did used to be 22, though, didn't it?
It did, yeah. At the start, it used to be 22, and
so
scrapping the the Carling Cup as well, and the Charity Shield is two of the proposals in it. Do you think that's down to, fixtures? There's too many games and protecting players, or is it down to more opportunities for bigger tours and things like that in the pre-season and more lucrative pre-seasons? Are you skeptical about it as some people, or do you think it's for the best to reduce the games?
I think it's both. I think it can be both, which is every year we talk about how mad are the fixtures. We had Liverpool last year playing 2 games in 24 hours in 2 different continents. We've had Tottenham so far this year. I know it's COVID, but they've managed to organise it where they play League Cup Tuesday, Europa League Thursday, Man United away on Saturday. Why on earth would you plan it that way? No logical person sits and looks at the fixtures and plans it that way. But they do, and they do it every year. Every year, Klopp moans about it, and every year Mourinho moans about it, and every year Arsenal moans about it, and they've been moaning about how the fixtures have been run for 10, 15 years, and nothing changes. So, the part of the things did the likes of Harris, maybe FSG and United went, this is an opportunity where we could say we want more power. We know it won't go through because you 14 teams to agree to it. 14 Premier teams are never going to agree to it. But now because it's out there, they've all done the big outrage thing and saying this is horrendous, which is, well, quite a bit hypocritical. But then they're all going, but they've heard all the points now that United and Liverpool agreed to with Rick Parry. So now they've got an itemised list of what they would like. And be compromised now going, well, we won't give 25%, but we're going to give 15% to this. We'll keep the League Cup, but we won't put European teams in it. And there'll be a compromise where the big teams, like the Liverpool, will go, well, great, now I can have a longer pre-season, which is more money, more time for the players to settle, so we don't have the disaster we have now. And then everybody else has slightly more better fixtures. Because basically the Premier League and the FA were a bit more organised. Clubs like Liverpool United wouldn't try this. But what people don't remember, I did some reading about it earlier, I think when the Premier League was initially created, the initial talks, the Premier League happened in 1990. And the TV companies went to the big 5 then, which was United, Arsenal, Liverpool, Everton, Spurs, and said, what do you think about this idea of the Premier League, this big new league, which we all love now. But now it's all the big 6, the dirty bastards, and going behind our backs, going. But they went behind your backs 25 years ago, and it's a little bit of it doesn't suit you. I mean, I quite like the fact that apparently, Everton are very upset over it, but Everton are actually going to be the biggest benefits of it because they were going to be one of the big six that get it.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit like, I think it's there's things that I like. I mean, I like the playoff idea for relegation because they do that in Germany, and to be honest, it's quite exciting, especially when you get like third bottom against the playoff winner. It's probably one of the more exciting games in German football. So I quite like that. I like the idea of money going down the pyramid. Now, ultimately, League One, League Two, they're all going to agree to whatever after this because if you're in Tranmere, if you're League Two side, who realistically you're never going to get to the Premier League. You can have aspirations, but realistically you never get to it. So they're probably going, I don't care who runs the Premier League. If I'm getting an extra £1 million a year to help keep my club close, I'll agree to anything. I think they will. There'll only be clubs in the Premier League and top end championship clubs that'll get a real bee in the bonnet. League One, League Two clubs, why would you care if you get a guaranteed 8% of the money's going to go to all clubs to improve the stadiums? For some clubs, they can never afford to do that. So the fact that they have a little guaranteed pot to get under sort of heating or refurb the stand, they're going to understand why they're doing it. I think that the Big Six get more power will never come off.
They wouldn't have to rely on a blade and look at the draw or FA Cup fourth round tie for the cash injection. You know what I mean? Like, you see how big those games are for those clubs. Like, if there was some sort of blanket in place to make sure that every club was financially healthy in that aspect. But then the other side of it is, how many of these clubs have competent enough owners to deal with that type of money? Because we've seen along the way, like, there's been some absolute shit shows with owners and clubs. Bury, for example, Bolton, for example. What happened with Wigan was like an absolutely, how people weren't locked up for what happened that week is fucking mental. It's syndicate betted on Wigan down into administration and then put them into administration. Like, it was absolutely like criminal.
And doesn't even get enough exposure, that story. Like, that's not even
trying to, when you're divvying out this cash, you need to make sure that the due diligence is done and that these people are capable of handling this cash, because it's a big responsibility at the end of the day.
Problem is, though, the people who check it. The problem is the people who check, though, if these are due diligence is the FA and the Premier League, and we've seen they're crap at stuff like this. You've seen the amount of horrendous owners that are in there, so that's never going to change. So again, you can see why the Big Six will go, we want more power, because look what you lot can't do. I don't agree with it. I don't think the Big Six should have all-seeing power of how football should be run. I think realistically needed never get it. I think it was just to get. I think it's put a bit of fear into the authorities that we can't just piss off you.
What this will do is, what this will do is, like Chris said, this has them at the table now. So there's negotiations here being made, and there's compromises being had. This will go through in some way or another. It will. Like, there's no way that it won't, because at the end of the day, the breadwinners in the Premier League are the ones that are going to be making decisions. And I know people said the top 6 and 7 clubs for the last 40 years in England haven't really changed all that much. Like, if I'm being honest, it's always been the usual suspects. I think it's going to go ahead, because at the end of the day, if they don't, it's sink or swim, really. It's shit or get off the pot for the Premier League. They have to do something, because the Super League is looming in the background. It's as simple as that.
The other thing, I'm saying this, I think Neil Axel made a good point about this, is what we've got to cut out of football at some point, and this is probably where the reset needs to be done, is no one wants to get relegated. No one does. But you can see in the Premier League, but more Championship to League One, the thought of getting relegated is like, it's like bankruptcy numbers. This is like, we're never ever going to come up. We're never going to recover, and we should not be at a stage where getting relegated means you go absolutely bankrupt. And we've seen clubs do it. We've seen Portsmouth. They were Premier League, the League One now, aren't they? They've never recovered from it. There was fears West Ham if they went down. There was fears West Ham if they went down would never come back, because financially the build up to the eyeballs. So again, I like the idea of them being spread out a bit more evenly to the lower league. So if you do get related, yes, it's not great, but you're not relying on parachute payments. You can still cut your cloth accordingly and still be competitive without having to shed 60% of your squad, and more importantly, shed loads of your staff, because that's all that happens when these clubs get relegated. It's always the tea lady, it's always the guy in turnstiles. They all lose jobs. It always happens because clubs can't afford to run them, because they're ran in such a way that we're fine as long as we stay in the Premier League. And I think, to be honest, if clubs aren't as scared financially of relegation, you might see less of this ale house, 20 men, everyone behind the ball. Let's hope we get a point because we can't afford to get relegated. Now people will be a bit more, perhaps be a little bit more brave to go, actually, we can have a go at bigger clubs, because if we do get relegated, we're financially sound anyway. So let's be a bit more expanded, let's be a bit more brave, which is what Norwich did. Norwich tried to do it, it didn't work. But Norwich aren't sat there now pining, go, what could happen? Norwich are now one of the favourites to go back up because they're very well run. But not every club is like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Stoke, for example, the big TV deal came in a few years ago, and you had Stoke bringing in Shaqiri, Bojan, Afaloy, Champions League winning players that they were able to bring in because they had a lot of money, but they didn't run the club too well, and then went down and nearly dropped again into League One. Clubs have to be able to look after themselves. There has to be a bit of self-sustainability, and giving them money, giving somebody, a gambler, a load of money isn't the best way to do it. But it will be interesting to see if anything can come of that, because as you have all touched on, the first move is being made. It was never going to be passed on the first go. But if you have 70 odd Football League championship teams that'll see a benefit to this, that will be backing it. So Rick Parry has his gang backing this to the hilt. If you've got 9 in the Premier League that are going to back it, which I know they all rejected it tonight, but realistically, West Ham, Everton, Southampton will be all over this if they know they're in this sort of top table. And then you'll have the big 6. There's not going to be many teams really that are opposing it, and it's going to be all those shy bags that hang around in the mid-table, that get comfortable in 10th, 12th, 14th. If you reduce the Premier League to 18 teams, you've got 18 and 17 relegated, and 16 goes into the playoff with the championship team. It makes it a bit more interesting. So I'll be interested to see what way it plays out. It's going to be a long time, I think, before anything really comes of it. This was the first roll of the dice, and it's not going to die away. It's not going to be forgotten about. We'll finish up now, lads. We've got 91 likes. If anybody feeling generous there and wants to smash that like button before we go, we'd really appreciate it. Like I said, it doesn't cost that, and we don't get any gains from it. It just helps us grow our shows and reach a bigger audience. So if you are watching the show and you enjoy what we do, please hit the like button, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, and you won't miss another show from us again. But we'll leave it there, lads. It's been the midweek fix. It's been international week. I hate international football. I just want Liverpool back, but we managed to scrape through it over an hour and 10 minutes nearly on that. So, Mick, thanks very much for coming on and joining us tonight.
No problem at all, boys. Anytime. Thanks a lot.
No worries. Tell the folks where they can catch you, just in case they don't know.
So on YouTube, the Kopite Podcast. On Twitter, the Kopite Off, and Kopite Off on Instagram as well.
Excellent. It's a really great channel. There's some good quality stuff on there. So if you don't subscribe, give the lads a follow and subscribe to their stuff. Chris, thanks very much for joining us tonight.
Cheers for having us.
No worries. You're on Grizz's internet tonight by the looks of it. And
yeah, it's bad today.
Yeah, I don't know what's up. And Seany Lawson, pleasure as always.
Cheers, Keith. Thanks for having us on. Pleasure, lads. All the best.
No worries at all. So we'll wrap it up. This has been the midweek fix, and we'll see us all again. Oh well, Gav, I think will be back on Friday with a Friday forecast. Looking forward more in depth to the Derby game. So there'll be some interesting stuff coming up. So be sure to tune into that. And we'll bid you all good night.